Okay. Hello, everyone. Here we are, Melba Stets and Erica Lopez with Vida Loca Coaches. And today we have the honor of interviewing Brenda Chase. She's an educator, consultant, podcaster, and it's amazing to have her. We're going to talk about education. And since Brenda speaks English, we're going to have Melba translate so that we can post this video for both English and Spanish speakers.
Yes,
So
thank you.
thank you guys all for being here. Such a blessing. So, Brenda, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, I transplanted to Hawaii probably about 5 years ago from California, and I came here to teach on had 2 weeks notice. So I use a lot of mindfulness in my classroom and different techniques to reach the kids and keep in a good place. And after I came here, I had to change up a lot of things, and then I also had to learn about the Hawaii kids. So I was in a different place where I didn't feel so empowered. And now, after 5 years, I feel more empowered, confident. I've learned things, and I teach and bring in a special personality into the classroom. So I
Let me translate. So, Brenda vino aquí a Hawái hace como 5 años y ella solo tuvo 2 semanas para mudarse y empezar la clase y todo. Parece que de verdad la querían y necesitaban en la escuela. Y ella en su clase, ella también incorpora técnicas de relajamiento para ayudar la educación y que estén pendientes, estén conscientes del tiempo, como mindfulness y respiración, etcétera. Y ella está diciendo que al principio se sentía que no tenía mucho apoderamiento, no tenía mucho poder, lo que llamamos en inglés empowerment, pero que con el tiempo ahora se siente que ha podido hacerlo y se siente en poder, en control de la clase.
Wow, that's amazing, Brenda. So, give us an idea of what you would describe as or define as mindfulness in the classroom.
Well, one thing I teach my students is being in sync and staying in your realm, and just basically staying calm. I breathe in, I integrate breathing, regrouping. I also, on top of that, share when a thought comes to me, I will bring it up and then just share it with the students, but I focus on that, and I want the students to have a voice in the classroom and to share their thoughts. So I also share what I'm thinking. But it's staying in my instinct brain, calm, and if something happens that I would think that's going to put me out of sync, I regroup, refocus, and realize that it's not against me, or it's a situation, and so I just stay centered, basically, and balanced. And it's taken an art to do that, because I'm empathetic and I take in feelings of others. So if I feel someone else is judging or triggering a situation, then I shift back to that. I realize that it's not against me, it's just them doing their process. So that's where I stay in sync. So anyway.
Thank you. Brenda, en su clase está usando, como dijimos anteriormente, está haciendo a sus estudiantes conscientes de lo que están haciendo y trata, mediante modelaje, aprendizaje vicario, ella trata de mostrarles y modelarles el no ser reactivo, no molestarse y tener falta de control emocional. Y ella está bien consciente de cómo los estudiantes aprenden mirándola. Y todos lo están haciendo juntos porque somos humanos y podemos tener un mal día, pero todos están ayudando en la clase.
So, when I'm hearing Brenda, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost like you guys have an equal partnership in the classroom, and every person in that classroom, including your students and yourself, have an equal voice.
Yes.
And has it been difficult for you to foster that?
In the past, this year it has not, but in the past years it has. This year, after I got my heart math certification as a practitioner, then, and the platform that I was teaching the students, because you learn things when you're teaching, whether I'm teaching my coworkers or instilling it in my coworkers or my students. So therefore, now it is ingrained in me. So because I've been teaching it and it's been a part of my everyday practice as well as my classroom. There was one example. I was out in a canoe and we were paddling and we were with the coach, and the coaches are really intense when they're paddling. You're supposed to be at one in sync. So we kind of stopped, and normally I stay focused, and I got so mindful in the boat that I couldn't hear the coach talking to me and stuff, which is really big for me because normally I would, when I was in the boat, my mind would always be somewhere else. But at that point I was here and now, and I was totally focusing on which was big for me, because I mean, so much so that I was able to tune out everything else and just be at one with the ocean. So that was big, and that's from teaching it and living it every day. And I do it. I comes to my meetings with me. I used to be real stressed in the meetings and feel I was being judged. And now it's just natural, second nature.
That's
So,
brilliant. I wonder where you learned it from.
Dr. Stutz. Yeah, she introduced me to the platform of heart math and neurofeedback. And yeah.
No, you're doing an excellent job. You're doing an excellent job. So Brenda está usando un sistema de retroalimentación o biofeedback que se llama HeartMath o corazón matemática. Simplemente es tratar de combinar la respiración, porque la respiración ustedes bien saben que afecta nuestra circulación, el sistema circulatorio, respiratorio, y toda esa sangre que tiene la oxigenación va a nuestro cerebro y pensamos entonces bien o no cuando va a nuestro lóbulo frontal. Entonces ella está practicando con sus estudiantes el mantenerse calmados, y ella dice que desde que empezó a hacerlo, ya tiene su certificación, ella se ve que lo hace todo el tiempo y lo hace hasta en las reuniones. Ella antes estaba bien ansiosa y ya está calmada. Y también dijo otro ejemplo de que estaban en un bote, estaban remando, porque ella también, ese es como su deporte. Y normalmente cuando el coach, el entrenador, está hablando lo que sea, ella a veces está pensando en otras cosas, pero que se dio cuenta que está funcionando porque estuvo bien calmada y siguió concentrada, que pudo dominar su estabilidad psicoemocional mediante la respiración.
Wow, that's amazing. So tell us a little bit more about your heart math certification.
Okay, so when we took the break in last year for the COVID, when the schools shut down first, that's when I at that point, before that, I would just be a user of it, and then I took the break from school to get certified in that. And then as soon as I finished the certification, within a month, I was able to teach the students that and apply it. And it was learning the science behind it and everything, and going through the courses really helped. Because I remember when Dr. Stutz would always do it, I was always asking her, why is it doing this? And I always wanted to know the why, because that's how it works for me. That's how I embrace something, is by learning the science and the why. And so studying the certification, but then taking it to the next level and being able to teach it and apply it. And then I jumped it up to a book, Transforming Stress. And in that book, it even went deeper. So that was, I really learned the ins and outs of everything, why I did what I do, why I do what I do, and why students do what they do. So,
So I'm sorry, so you have a book that you published?
No, está leyendo un libro.
It was Transforming Stress for Team, put out by HeartMath.
Okay.
Ella está hablando de su certificación y está diciendo que cuando ella aprendió esta técnica de usar este sistema en mi oficina, ella siempre quería parar la sesión a preguntar mucho, y ahora que cogió la certificación ella misma, porque hay distintas certificaciones, ella cogió una que le explicaba todos los detalles y pudo aprender más. yo iba a comentar que, Brenda, I'm just going to say in English and then I say in Spanish. The reason why maybe we have practitioners in this interview is good for them to remember that, for clients to know that when we talk and when we talk fast, when we're thinking and we talk fast, typically we go to high beta, to the extreme of the beta, and the hard math, you have to be in alpha. So when Brenda tried to ask me stuff while I'm trying for her to relax, from alpha, she will go to high beta because she's curious. She goes left brain. She wants to know what's going on. And we're like, no, I need you to relax. No, but I need to know what's going on. So now she took the time to go through all the training and she's able to understand way more than do it in a practitioner's office. Lo que estaba explicando es que a veces cuando la gente está practicando con esta tecnología, uno quiere que las ondas cerebrales estén en un hertz que es 812 hertz, que es alfa, y es de tranquilidad, como cuando uno dice, pero que cuando si te estás haciendo esa técnica, después uno se pone a preguntar, típicamente uno aguanta la respiración para preguntar, ¿verdad? Uno dice, pero, y ahí estamos aguantando la respiración, estamos afectando el ritmo cardíaco y estamos acelerando las ondas cerebrales de alfa, suben a beta y a high beta, que es el extremo del beta, y ya estamos casi en ansiedad, estamos en preocupación, no estamos en tranquilidad. Pero que ya cogió el curso, pudo aprender todo y ahora cuando va a practicarlo no tiene que, ya sabe, regularse, quedarse en alfa.
Wow. So how has the Heart Math certification impacted your teaching and your students?
Well, it's besides answering the whys, so it helps me understand them more, and it also gives them the tools because there are middle schoolers or 8th graders, and even younger kids that I know. It's instilled in them a different perspective, a shift of perspective. That's one thing that I've learned, that you can't change how you react to someone. I mean, you can't change what someone does. You can only change how you react to them. And I would share that with the students a lot and with people in my life. And so that really, that and then the mindfulness brings that in. But just knowing that, just the breathing and getting them to do it, but also shifting your perspective and how I react to the students. So I stay really mindful with them, and I use that phrase all the time, and I think Dr. Stetz gave that to me, and it's up in my room, about changing. You can't change the way the kids are or the way I am or the way my teammate is. I can only change how I react to them. And by changing that and being mindful and bringing the heart math in, it shifts the perspective in the classroom. The environment changes. And it stems in my everyday life as well, whether I'm in the canoe, at the beach, in my class, my team meetings, time with my family, my sons, and yeah, it's widespread. So and it's really been empowering. That's one reason that I put the podcast together, is about sharing that information. And without this, with that. Go ahead. Yep.
I'm gonna put the chat here. So first I'm gonna translate, and then I'm gonna ask you, if possible, if you can put the name of your podcast so people can see it. If you can type it in the chat.
Okay.
So Brenda estaba hablando que Erika le preguntó que cómo te ha impactado a su vida y a de los estudiantes el haber tenido esa certificación de Harvard, y ella dice que ha sido tremendo porque ahora todo el mundo está más consciente del mecanismo de mantenernos a nivel balanceado psicoemocional, y que se ha podido generalizar o transferir a todas las dinámicas de su vida, cuando está con sus amigos, cuando está trabajando, cuando está estudiando, etcétera. Y ahora yo le pedí que ella empezó un podcast como el que tenemos nosotros en Spotify. ¿Y en dónde más, Erika?
It's hosted by Captivate.
Pues se llama Vida Loca Coaches, pero está en distintos sitios. Por favor, para que lo oigan y se lo manden a sus amigos y a sus amistades. Brenda va a poner en el chat, que lo van a ver ahorita, va a typear el nombre de su podcast. Erika, no sé si le vas a preguntar que si puede poner también su información por si alguien quiere contactarla.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell us a little bit more about your podcast and what you're focusing and what is specifically about.
Okay, I got the thing back. Okay, it's geared around education and experiences that happens in the education setting. Things that may put us in our out of sync brain, or things that keep us from being successful as teachers, or staying in our mindful zone, because there's a lot of crazy things that happen. And like one teacher the other day said to me, you have a really lot of strange things that happen in your classroom, when I was making a comment about what a student said. And I put in there that my classroom's a safe space. Short of students, they are allowed to have their voice, because education is going to student-centered learning, not teacher-centered learning. So I have a co-teacher, and in the classroom where the students they get tired of hearing from me, so I will have them one co-teacher of the day, and they add feedback, and then it's a safe space so no one criticizes them, and it's getting them to learn their voice, to share their voice, because they have such a different perspective than I may have. And so that's why I bring in the co-teacher. So the podcast is about upping the education game and improving the classroom and things. And because it is a very different environment, but it can be a very stressful environment, but it can also should be fun. Students should enjoy their learning, and then I as a teacher want to enjoy teaching. So it's kind of to create a healthy balance in the classroom for me emotionally, so that I stay in my instinct brain. I've taken a couple breaks in education to learn because things get stressful. So it doesn't happen so much now. I mean, I stay it's a good place to be. I get excited about going to school and teach. So.
Brenda está diciendo que el podcast de ella tiene que ver con la intención, el propósito, la misión del podcast de ella es poder mejorar la calidad de la clase, de la armonía de la clase. Ustedes probablemente han oído de ambientes que son tóxicos. Pues ella está tratando que todo el mundo se sienta bien en la clase, porque más que nada porque los estudiantes van a la escuela a aprender. La escuela no es nada más, no es centrada en el maestro, es centrada en el estudiante, pero todo el mundo se tiene que sentir bien, y al ella sentirse bien y más calmada, pues puede dar una mejor calidad de clase.
Okay, so just to be clear, her podcast is, this is Brenda Chase. Her podcast is Education Up Our Game, Thrive by Perspective Shift, and Anchor Platform. What I want to say, so because you teach this way, I'm assuming that you really don't have any classroom management issues. Is that correct? Why don't you describe that?
So they're minor. So yes, so it does give the kids a voice there, but sometimes they will say, because things will come out in their teenage brain, but I value their voice and stuff, so we adjust it. So there is minor little things, whereas the past years there've been some major situations. This year I've only had the students back 2 weeks in the classroom, and we haven't had any classroom issues. A student will say something inappropriate at times, but it stops there, and I think it's with the heart math, it's the energy field. We learn about the students were learning about that 6-foot energy field, and they've so connected with each other that they feel the vibe. So I think it self-corrects when something does come up. I think the most thing I had was a paper being thrown across the floor the other day with a student, but they do treat each other with respect, and they do manage each other well. And in the past, there was a lot of disrespect, but this year it seems like they value each other, and respect. So yeah, so that's the most, yeah, so it's very mindful, and the energy field is, I think that's what it was, is that we taught about the energy field and showed them diagrams. And so I feel a real positive energy with them this year.
And it's like they have pride, right? They have pride in their classroom. They have pride in their students because of how you've established this way of being.
And they do say that they say I'm chill. And I think they got that. They said that about Dr. Melba when she guest spoke for the class too. And they said they liked her there because she was chill. And some of yes. So that's the way I really want it to be a safe place and a healthy emotional place. So, yeah, I think if I do go out of sync a little bit, I regroup, I stop, I breathe, and they go, oh, she's regrouping now, and they watch me do that. I don't hide it, and they go, okay, and then I've got the different heart math techniques on the wall. So sometimes I say, okay, I'm going to go to this one, and so I make it inherent, and so they have them on the wall too. And yeah, and I think a lot of them it's inherent. And I also had the students create their own breathing app and share it to the class. So we switch off to those too. So that really sets the tone.
Bien interesante. Ella está hablando de que ella tiene los recursos de HeartMath como recordatorios en la pared para que los estudiantes vean. Entonces ella, cuando les quiere, en vez de subir la voz y molestarse para que ellos entiendan, ella simplemente respira con una respiración bien exagerada para que ellos vean que ese es el momento de reagruparse. Y ellos se dicen, eso quiere decir que se tienen que portar mejor. Y ellos tienen los recordatorios en la pared que se recuerdan que los ayuda a respirar como tienen que hacer y sentarse bien y coger breaks. Y la intención es que todo el mundo se lleve bien y siga el proceso de aprendizaje. Brenda, in regard to the podcast, Spotify, anywhere else?
Right now it's only on Anchor. So I'm working on the others. I've got the others written. I've got one on Podbean, but it's only in writing because I'm waiting on
Spotify and Anchor.
Yes. And Podbean will be coming out.
What?
Podbean.
P-O-T?
Podbean.
Yes, and it's in writing, but it's not recorded yet. So you can access it, but it's
Podbean.
Yes, I can put the
Erika, see? Podbean.
Yes. Bean. No, with it.
Bean, como
frijol. Yes. Okay, so I have a couple of more questions, Brenda. Tell us about how this HeartMath has helped you with distance learning.
Okay, I'll stop what I was putting on. Okay, I was typing in the chat. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, with distance learning, I had to how HeartMath helped. Well, we had to go to an online platform, so it was perfect timing. So I was able to use the platform Smart Brain Wise Heart with the students, and that was introducing to them and starting with the videos, and then so that gave them the tools of the process that I have. I was able to instill share that program with them through Smart Brain Wise Heart. So it wasn't just me doing the breathing and the mindfulness. They could actually see it and apply it to their own world. So HeartMath, because they opened up a platform through Smart Brain Wise Heart for students, it allowed them to understand the process and get engaged in it as well as part of that. And I would also have them journal and reflect on it too. And so they would apply. So I would hear their voice and how they were, if they liked it or if their takeaway. They had to daily do a takeaway. So then I learned to understand the students, and in the process, understanding and adjust my teaching when needed, but they always had to share their thoughts with me. So it was an open door, and they were never criticized if they didn't respect it or understand it. And then other students would chime in and share that with them as well. So we really learned each other's. And then now moving with them in the classroom, it's just awesome because we, and yeah, so it was, so it's been a blessing and very empowering to understand them deeply and have that connection because it's a, yeah.
Miss Chase, Brenda está diciendo que Erika le preguntó que cómo ha funcionado las clases con el HeartMath a través de la distancia, como nosotros estamos ahora mismo, y ella dice que muy bien porque se adaptó, porque HeartMath tiene una plataforma para estudiantes que ha sido más interactiva y ellos pueden a su propio ritmo entender más de la racional de practicar el relajarse y el ser concentrado en el momento, no estar pensando en el pasado o en el futuro. Y también ella les ha pedido que escriban que han aprendido de cada lección, como journaling, en una libretita, y ella lo revisa, y eso ha sido bueno para el estudiante porque el estudiante se entiende mejor, y bueno para ella porque ella también entiende mejor a los estudiantes. Y es una dinámica bien bonita y ahora ha ayudado mucho a la transición otra vez físicamente a las escuelas.
Wow. Okay, so this Heart Math certification has also helped with social emotional learning.
Yes, the start of the school year, the wheel teachers, which is a different subject every quarter, we always start out with social emotional learning. That's our part of our pacing. So the start of the year is always that. So Heart Math was the platform I chose for that. Yes, so that is, so because of the COVID, we went a lot longer, so we got to go really deep with stuff. So yeah, so social emotional learning is always the wheel teachers at our school all start out with that program.
Nice.
Ellos empezaron en la escuela el programa de aprendizaje socioemocional y ella ha podido implementarlo con la ayuda también del mismo sistema de HeartMath. Así que todo ha fluido bien, muy bien, de la mejor manera.
So I'm thinking that this program has really impacted the kids, not only in the classroom, but also in other areas of their life. So what would you say would be the biggest takeaway? If you're speaking to all the teachers out there, what would be the biggest takeaway of what you've learned through this program to help others?
The biggest takeaway is the connection with the students, and then the students connecting it to their home life and all aspects of their life. And one teacher had mentioned, she said she had them sign a paper, and she said they were starting to use the Heart Math language in discussions in class and as well as in their assignments. She said, so she called me up to tell me that they were walking the talk. I mean, they were applying it to their life. So I had one student that was one of those students, Joey's here, this name repeated it continuously at the year. And this year, he did a total transformation. And I asked him one day, I said, what happened? He says, I just never really put my effort into it. I never cared about my grades or anything. And now I care. And he's shooting for straight A's right now.
Erika le preguntó a Brenda que cómo esto ha afectado a los niños en otras partes de su vida, y es bueno reportar que los ha ayudado a ellos mismos a entenderse mejor, a llevarse mejor con otras personas, hasta los maestros, los otros maestros han aprendido este sistema que Brenda trajo a la escuela, y ellos se han dado cuenta que están usando hasta las mismas técnicas que ella está haciendo. Es decir, que la maestra Brenda Chase está impactando, empezó por ella, después los niños, después toda la escuela.
Wow. So that student, because you did the heart math program with that student, I guess you made him realize what was important and he started applying and now he's doing really well.
Yes. And when we stopped doing the Heart Math platform, I upped it to a program called it's a podcast for screenagers, and it talks about the science of the gaming impact on them too. And so I kind of still keep it in there, and then that they have teenagers through that program. They have a doctor, a psychologist, and teenagers speaking. So the students get to hear that too. So that I think that I just plant the seed and they go with it. So yeah, I try to keep it current and keep it going too, because I mean, yeah, I think that's, and I don't know the full impact, but from the journaling that I read, that really did show that the journals that the students wrote, that it did help them a lot. So yeah, and felt good because I'm the only one at my school doing this.
Como ella es la única que está en la escuela haciendo eso, a veces ella también usa otros podcasts. Hay uno para adolescentes que tienen psicólogos y otras personas comentando, y ella pues complementa su sistema de aprendizaje con este podcast. ¿Perdí algo, Erika?
No, what was the second program, Brenda? Can you repeat the second program that you've been using to help the students?
Screenagers.
Es un podcast. ¿Ah?
And it's a podcast?
Yes.
Oh,
they have a web page, Screenagers, and they have a movie that they could share with the whole school. And that is really good program. But the podcast is based by the person that put the movie together, so it brings it. So if schools can't afford the movie or put it out, I mean, they have great programs for bringing the movie in. But the Screenagers is what worked so that I could still bring the movie in. And then I eventually am going to want to do a goal and get the movie at the school. They have a movie that they can show to parents and students. But the podcast is small snippets. They range from 9 minutes to 15 minutes. So I teach an advisory class and I bring it into that part. So yeah, so that's a way to bring it in if you can't do the whole movie. And it's real.
De un podcast que habla de una película que ella está recomendando, que la usa en segmentos en su clase, y este podcast también ayuda a que se transfiera esta información, a que impacte positivamente también a la familia. Brenda, would you type the name of it on the chat, sure, if possible, please?
Yes. And the Screenagers is geared toward teachers and parents as well as the students. So the podcast.
Los adolescentes también están en ese podcast. Oh, by the way, Brenda, thank you for subscribing. Yeah,
yeah.
Necesitamos que se suscriban, por favor, suscríbanse. Es de gratis, pero necesitamos suscripciones.
So I'm a strong believer that students don't learn until they know how much you care. So do you think that these two programs have really created this bond between you two, your students and yourself, so that you guys could increase the learning?
Yes, I think it has. And especially now I see it more that they're in the classroom. I can see that because when they were online, there was cameras off sometimes and stuff. So now I can see, but before they came back into the classroom, the journaling really showed that, and then now that they're in the classroom, I can really see that they do. They're very respectful. Hey, Miss Chase. Goodbye, Miss Chase. Have a great weekend. This is the first group of students that I've ever had say hello or have a great weekend and hope you, what are you going to do this weekend? And that's really unusual. So I can see that. And instead of just heading out, they'll like, bye, Miss Jace. And yeah, so I think that yeah, so that I can show. And then I ask them too but it's also changed how I address them too. So they do see that.
Ella ha visto
Ah,
como, oh, perdón,
no, go ahead, go ahead.
ha visto como han cambiado, que por ejemplo, antes los estudiantes entraban a la clase, a veces, y también cuando estaba dando clases remotas, a veces no prendían las cámaras y eso, y ahora actualmente la saludan y después antes de irse de la clase se despiden y hasta a veces le preguntan a ella cómo está y qué va a hacer, se vuelven más ciudadanos, lo que se espera de los ciudadanos.
Okay. What I was going to say is that have you seen an increase in their learning or their skills because of these programs that you've implemented?
Yes. Sorry, I'm putting in an address. I have seen with the students that generally did not thrive before or did not thrive, but engage, are becoming more engaged, and they love connecting because we use several different platforms, and I have something that reaches every student's learning style too. So on top of that, okay, I just put that in. So there is one thing that sometimes we don't get work in with that, but that's across the board. But then the students, they're given the opportunity to come to office hours and work it through, and that some of that comes from the gaming. So it's taking some time to undo that because there are students that will game while we're teaching and they don't get it, but then they have the opportunity to come back. And so I think it's less than that, but it's yeah, but I do see a lot of the quality and the reflections coming, but we still have a long way to go because they've got, the lifetime of habits and stuff, but yes.
But it's a great start. It's definitely a great start.
Sí, los estudiantes ahora están más reflexivos y aunque parece que muchos de ellos estaban teniendo mucho tiempo jugando videojuegos, ahora tienen el tiempo de parar y volver a la lección y repasarla. Y pues todo toma tiempo, pero se está viendo un avance, una mejora en la conducta de ellos en relación a cómo esto impactado su educación y sus notas.
Brenda, what advice would you give parents out there who have those kids that game 24/7?
The first thing I would do was introduce them to the Screenagers podcast. And then once because at this point, they need to, so I talk to them a little bit about the impact, and then I offer them the Screenagers podcast and talk about that. And the impact that it's having on their brain, and how when a student's in the classroom, one thing I've learned from the Screenagers team is they're in the fast-paced gaming world the whole time. When they come to our classroom, they're still in the game. So I got to bring them back to that. So, to get them, because I'm not going to try to compete with a video game. So, but I've got to get them to see the impact on their future. So because I'm able to teach real world, authentic, productive project-based learning and getting them to see their future and see hope. And so that's where, and we talk about the gaming, and other students will discuss it, and they'll have that dialogue, and they'll talk about it, and they'll say, I was up all night, and they said I can barely concentrate on the test. So the other students are kind of take care of that too. So as far as the parents, giving them a little, planting a seed with them and getting them to, because they need the tools too, because it's a battle. I mean, my sons didn't really game much. They had little Pokemon Game Boys and stuff. So they had a good good education foundation before they got into gaming. So letting parents understand the impact, the lifelong impact that it's having on their brain development. And there's a talk about any time that someone is like doing something, like if a person was out in the ocean surfing all the time, they're giving up other aspects of their life, even though that's a healthy thing. So you've got to create a healthy balance. And the gaming creates an unhealthy balance. And they can't, so letting the parents see the impact and then giving them the tools to go from there is ideal. And so that's, yeah.
Erika
Okay.
estaba preguntando.
Okay. Because I was saying that it's really addicting,
Sí.
the gaming.
Erika estaba preguntando que ella recomienda a los padres para los que tienen hijos que están siempre pegados a la computadora o al videojuego. Y Brenda le recomendó que vieran la película Teenagers Movie o que oigan el podcast para ver todos los problemas o el impacto detrimental que tienen en su cerebro, porque en estos juegos los estudiantes tienen que estar en un ritmo bien rápido, que es lo que estaba hablando ahorita del high beta, el beta extremo de las ondas cerebrales, están así, y eso crea ansiedad, y eso están en ese mundo de realidad virtual. Entonces, cuando apagan el juego y van a la clase, todavía están así, lo cual afecta no tanto su sistema nervioso central y periférico, porque están jugando así, pero también afecta su sistema psicoemocional, porque están bien reactivos. Entonces ella les tiene que volverlos al presente y a decirle, mira, estamos aquí en clase, cálmate, y los refiere a hacer algo que los centra otra vez, los reagrupa. Y que lo bueno de este sistema que ella está implementando en su clase es que también impacta a los padres, porque los padres son los que le permiten a los hijos, porque están ocupados, porque no quieren pelear o están cansados, lo que sea, a que tengan este tiempo pegado a la computadora tanto tiempo. Y Erika estaba añadiendo que eso es bien adictivo, que está creando una adicción.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Brenda, for all your insight, and I'm so proud of everything you're doing for these kids. I want to ask you, is there anything you would like to add or share with our audience so that we can bring some awareness of when the dangers of video gaming, or even for teachers to understand that they need to connect with their students and bring them down, like you said, in sync, and using these different skills?
Yeah, more or less just do your homework, look into it, and find the tools that you can help the student. Because I have some parents that they don't realize that their kids are up gaming all night. And so we can only do so much. So we need to partner with the parents. So talk with your teachers, talk with your students, make sure you know what your kids are doing and the impact of it on their future brains. So I post all of these links that I shared with you on my students' Google Classroom, so the parents have access to them. So I would like parents to really check in more with teachers' assignments and make sure do their homework on this stuff and see the impact it's having on them, and just really, but do it in a way that in your instinct brain. Make sure that you do the homework first, and because I know that they've got to just bridge that gap and connect with their kids. And some of them set really healthy boundary time, like an hour online time and 2 hours off, an hour instead of good balance. So setting up, sit with your child and work out a plan together.
Brenda está sugiriendo que le den un tiempo específico. Ese es el tema final que ella quiere dar, que le den un tiempo específico a los hijos en las casas, que son sus estudiantes, de que cuánto tiempo pueden estar en la computadora y cuánto tiempo no, pero que también los padres deben educarse en todo el proceso que estábamos hablando, no nada más el tecnológico, pero el proceso psicoemocional y el proceso cómo afecta el aprendizaje, la energía, el tiempo que sus hijos, los estudiantes de Brenda, tienen para aprender. Brenda, will you be so kind to put your email? Is it brendacheck@gmail.com or Capiolani or what?
Yeah,
If you don't mind people emailing you, if you do, then don't. It's up to you.
Yeah, I'm also on the Facebook too. Oops.
So whatever you want.
Yeah. No, I don't mind the email, so that's my extra.
So they can ask you about the hard math, etc. How you're incorporating in the class.
See, and then Brenda Chase on Facebook.
Thank you so much, Brenda. I have one more question. Why don't you share a little bit, since you've been listening to Screenagers and you've seen the movie, I'm assuming. Why don't you share with the parents a little bit of the dangers of over gaming? I would say gaming to the extreme.
Okay, it's one of the major things is they get locked in the virtual world, and when they're in the classroom, they're in the virtual world. They can't remove themselves. Everything's so fast paced, and when they come into the classroom, they're still thinking in the game. Like when I used to be in the boat, I would think of canoeing. I'd be thinking about the classroom, and so I wasn't being successful in the boat because my head was somewhere else. And it's the same thing with the students. I can explain something, and they're some of the students that are so regularly in it, especially when they're online, they don't hear what's going, so they're not being successful in the classroom because they are almost locked in the virtual world, and they do everything they're thinking about is when they're going to play the next game or when that. And sometimes when we were doing online, it was more free because I have small groups and the kids would work together and they would talk about, so some of them, they would always finish their work, this one group, but they would always be talking about the gaming as well, which is amazing. They were able to do both, but some of them don't. And so they don't hear the key concepts of education with the math or the English or what we're doing. So then it ties in when it comes time for the test. They're not picking the concepts up and they're not preparing for their future. So that's one thing is just knowing yeah, that's all.
Sí, ella más o menos está hablando lo que presentamos ahorita en cuanto que el tener mucho tiempo en el mundo, en la virtualidad o el mundo irreal de realidad virtual, como los estudiantes de ella son inmaduros, sus cerebros no están formados totalmente, porque el cerebro está formalmente formado, acabado como a los 20 años, pues muchas veces ellos están como en un sistema de atención alterada, que realmente las neuronas no saben discriminar si están en el juego o están en la clase, y les toma tiempo, y ella tiene que hacer lo que tenga que hacer para que ellos se puedan concentrar, porque pierden muchos de los términos importantes para pasar la clase o para ser exitosos en la clase, porque la mente todavía está en el juego. Y otros hasta hablan de los juegos y en la clase, pero muchos no pueden tener la mente en el juego y en la clase porque afecta negativamente sus notas.
I wanted to add one more thing. That's why I incorporated the Screenagers, because Heart Math doesn't talk about the gaming aspect of things. So that's when I so I brought in Screenagers. So,
por eso que ella trajo Screenagers, porque para hablar del sistema, del programa de realidad virtual.
And other ways that it affects the brain? Do you have any other examples?
Well, their social and emotional learning is impacted on it, and the reality, and thinking that the gaming world is actually reality, more real than it is. So they're not interacting with students like we used to go out and talk and run and play at the beach, and so they don't know how to communicate as well.
Afecta también su sistema social porque ellos no están practicando las destrezas de ser sociable, de hablar, de preguntar. Algunos de ellos están limitados en ese sentido porque no lo practican en el mundo virtual. No hay transferencia de aprendizaje.
So it kind of goes back to the family having dinner and everybody's on their phone.
Yep.
Wow. That's pretty intense. Well, thank you very much, Brenda Chase. You've been an amazing asset. I'm hoping that we can share your message. Parents out there, teachers out there, learn these tactics, expose your kids to Screenagers, the podcast, the movie, the Heart Math system, and hopefully we can start building connections and bringing awareness. Because I think sometimes parents see the video gaming as like a babysitter. Like if that kid's in that room playing their game, then I don't have to worry about anything. But we don't realize the damage that it's causing, the fact that they can disassociate themselves from the virtual reality, the fact that they can't do the social aspect because they're in that mindset of the game that now they're not talking to people. So this is really serious damage. So hopefully with this podcast and obviously with Brenda's podcast and bringing this awareness, we can reach more students, more parents, and more teachers.
El trabajo fuerte que está haciendo Brenda está ayudando a muchos estudiantes y la meta que tenemos nosotros es que pasar, por favor, si ven este video, dénselo a otras personas y a sus escuelas y síganlo mandando para adelante y también comunicándose con Brenda para que esto se pueda, como dice Erika, se siga compartiendo y haciendo un impacto social más grande, positivo.
Si quieren encontrar a Brenda, es Brenda Chase Facebook or BEChase2011@gmail.com. So thank you so much, Brenda, for your time. We're hoping that our podcast brings awareness to these very important issues.
Gracias, Brenda.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thanks.
Thank you, Brenda.
Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Bye.